All right, hi there, everyone. Hi there, Instagram. Hi there, YouTube, and wherever else I decide to upload this. Welcome to lesson 3 or episode 3 of September is Significant. And if you are new and you're just joining us, I suggest you go back and watch the welcome video so you can understand what I am talking about when I started saying 5% and your p-value and data points. Okay, so we're going to jump right in. And on YouTube, I am going to Instagram, hi there, YouTube, and wherever else. Let me mute the other side. Uh, After this on YouTube, I'm going to go into an extended rant about something else. So, Instagram, I'll log off, but YouTube, you stay tuned and wherever else I upload this. But I want to jump right in. So, we're talking about September is significant, and we're talking about key data points that you can actually track, which is your p-value. Now, we're not going to go deep into like research. Go back and watch the welcome video or even lesson 1 so you can understand that. But what is the 5% of the data that you can focus on so that you can get the results that you want? And that when you track the results, then and you actually get results, then you'll know that it's not just a fluke. It didn't happen by chance. So a lot of times we do things and we don't count them as success because it was like, oh, that just happened or that was luck. But when you track it and understand what you're doing, you'll know that no, I did things in a strategic way, and that's how I got my results. And if I keep doing that, then that's how you can start quantum leaping your results by focusing on that 5% of the data. So 5% out of everything that you can control, it can still be a lot of data points. But in this series, I'm only going to talk about 12 data points. So today we're talking about securing your time and how to, excuse me, how to personalize your productivity. You hear a lot of people talking about different time management, life hacks, and habit trackers, and all those things. And I am going to bring those things up because there's a reason why those things are still mainstream, okay? But the key part is for you to have that vision. Remember, I told you in part 1, in lesson 1, you must set up and step up your vision for any of this to make sense. A lot of us are just getting these goals for just the year or for the month or for 90 days, 6 months, and then we're like, okay, I'm going to focus on this, and then we wonder why it falls apart. This isn't everybody, just as some people. And if you're like me, this may resonate to you. What you need is have the bigger vision in your mind. And so I said, start off with that big, scary vision, dream that keeps going on in your head all the time, the one that you cannot get over, the one that it pops up every now and then, or is triggered by something that you see all the time. That is what you're supposed to be doing in life. That's kind of like your big overall mission for life. And then what you do with your goals and you set and well you do, if you want to have goals, you can break things down into chunks as it relates to the vision. I believe that if a lot of us only focus on 2 areas, our personal life and our professional life, and then we don't split anything up. You can start off between looking at 5 areas of your life all the way up to, I believe, like 15. It could be more, but I've only uncovered like 15. And you don't have to do all 15, but at least do between 5 and 9 areas of your life. And then filter those things based on your big vision. So you have your big vision in your mind. And then you're like, well, what kind of person would I need to be in each one of these areas to make sure that I'm on the right track? Here's the thing that a lot of people don't talk about. You may not live to see your big, huge vision realized, and that is okay. This is where you have your goals and your targets because you do want to live to see some of those things be accomplished. So keep that in mind when you look at these big name people in the industry in different industries, whether McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Porsche, Mercedes, Tiffany and Co. Whatever, insert whatever you see. Those are names, or a lot of them are names of people, and or a lot of them are companies that started with one person, and then that it keeps going, and the founder or the group of people who founded that, they've long gone, but their vision is still going. That's the kind of vision I want you to have. So don't focus on, am I going to live to see my vision to come true? Maybe not. And that's okay, but it needs to be big enough to where it outlasts you. That's what you need to focus on. And then, like I said before, you can backtrack and now you can start setting up goals and then having the intention. Now, when I'm talking about securing your time, you want to focus on the things that you can control, the 5% of the things. Here's the thing, a lot of things work. a lot of things work. It may not work for you. You may have to try different things, but you have to put in the time to be consistent with it for a little bit to see if it works for you. And then if it doesn't, then try something else and stick with it for a certain amount of time so you can get the accurate data points. A lot of people like get planners and they try it for a week and they're like, oh, that's just not me. But that we go back to something where we went from amateur to pro. If you are using a planner, like a paper planner, commit to using the entire planner. You may adjust things in the planner, but don't just do something for a couple weeks and then throw it to the side. Stick with it and use it because one, you're building up your commitment muscle and your action taking muscle. Now, this is just something that just completely doesn't work and you've been doing it for a few months. Maybe, but I'm going to challenge you to stick it out. And that's why I like doing things like in 90 days. So one example is like the full focus planner. This is not a plug for them, but I know they do 90 days. I think you can find any planner that does 90 days so that you don't feel overly committed and then you don't feel so bad when you have leftover pages. But I brought that up because you need to know how to personalize your productivity. So one thing I would suggest that we stop focusing on is time management. And I've said this before, we cannot manage time. We can only optimize it, right? Because time is going to time regardless, but you can optimize your time. So many people say that they don't have enough time in the day to do certain things, but that's not true. The first thing is you need to track your time and what you're doing with your day. Me and one of my close friends, we shared this story. We went on a trip one time a couple years ago, and she said, "Oh, I just don't have time to read." She's an educator, so she reads a lot during the day, but she was like, "I don't have time to do any extra reading." And so I said, "Really?" I said, "For the past 15, 20 minutes, I saw you just sit there scroll on your phone." I said, "You could have read, at least a chapter of something or an article about something." And we both fell out laughing. And to this day, she kind of brings that up. So we have more time than we realize, but we're not tracking it. You may think that you, if you put, and when I say track it, I mean literally track hour by hour, minute by minute. Now, some people don't function well having this be an ongoing process and it can cause anxiety. So I'm not talking about doing this long term, but I am talking about at least a week or two. Just track your time to see where your time goes. Just write down everything where you Netflix and chill or where you cook, driving, commute times. Just track it so you can have the data to look at it. There are some of you who truly don't have time. You may be working two, three jobs. You may have full-time family, other responsibilities, but I still encourage you to track your time. And this is where you personalize it. So if you're not tracking your time and then you start working with someone, this is part of my rant I'm going to talk about later on YouTube. But if you start working with someone and then they tell you, oh, you're just not putting in enough hours, you need to set up your schedule like this, don't be offended. Okay, do not be offended because you have to take what they're saying and then and personalize it to what you have going on. Now, this doesn't mean you play the victim and you're like, see, I don't have enough time. If they're saying, I know one coach, she spends like 2, 3 hours focusing on her daily tasks, and then you may come in and if you work with her, like I have something similar to that. Like my schedule right now, I could do 2 to 4 hours in the morning just doing me and focusing on the task at hand. So if we work together and you hear me say that, that is not for you to be like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be successful or hit my goals because I don't have that much time. This is where you personalize it. Take from that, and this is where a lot of us are getting hung up on. We're trying to take exactly what somebody else is doing and drop it in our lives, and then we get frustrated. What you should hear is there's a set time that I focus or someone else focus, and I tend to do mine in the morning. If you're not that person, then you need to have a set time where either you do it in the middle of the day or at the end of the day. It's not that complicated. This is why you personalize your productivity. But here's the other part. All of the times that when you track your time and then you realize that how much time you have, then you need to start allocating that time to things that look like your bigger vision. This is why it's important to have that big vision. Then you can't accomplish that big vision as big as it is. This is where you start chunking things down and you start taking things like, well, what can I control right now? what would make sense? You reverse engineer. We hear that all the time, but what does that really mean? Example, if you have this vision of being a real estate mogul, and you want all these properties all over the world, but clearly you're not gonna get that done, in like 1 year. I mean, maybe, but you're not gonna get. Let's be realistic. Let's still, we can still be a little delulu a little bit, but let's be realistic. Are you gonna get 50 properties? You're just starting out in 1 year. Probably not. But what can you do? What can you work on? Within the first year or 6 months or even 30 days. I don't know. You, right? But what could you realistically work on that's still a stretch for you? Oh, well, I can do a single family home, but a stretch for me would probably be getting like a duplex or a triplex. Okay, great. Now you set that up. It's still part of your big vision. I'm going to filter through and go back to, we're going to do this day one. Whatever your thing is, go back and listen to part one and part two. And today let's go back. I'm not going to do this for all 12 of them, but I want to help you get this. Big vision, real estate mogul. That was lesson one. Lesson two is separate your list, how to quit like a pro. When you're thinking about real estate or whatever it is, but we're sticking with real estate because that's what I said, then what are some things that real estate moguls do and don't do? This is your time to start looking at, some people that you see online or reading about. What are some of the things and characteristics and traits that they do? How do they talk? What are their habits? Like what character traits do they have? Some that you probably already have but need to enhance. What is your attitude, your focus? How are you preparing your commitment? And we talked about what are you completing? And there are things that you can like chunk down into. You don't just wake up and say, I'm going to go buy a triplex. And then it's, in your possession the next day. There are some things that you need to put in place first. So when you have that list of things this is low level thinking, and this is high level thinking, and this is high level action, this is low level action. When you separate that list and you focus on being the professional, now you can come down to personalizing your productivity, securing your time, what you focus on in your time that you have allocated for that. Those are only the tasks that you do. If you are running a business, you know that sales is key. So spend time working on sales, whether that's learning more about sales or actually talking to people to practice lead generation, all of that. What are you doing every week to tell people about who you are and what services you can provide for them? If you want to have, a better relationship with your family, well, bigger thing, I mean, I wouldn't know what the huge vision of that would be, but let's just break it down. Let's say it is for you right now. You want to work on your family. What are some things? Again, go back. How do you? What is the vision for your family? What is the big vision that you want to have? That can be a big one. When I said look at the different areas of your life, family is one. What is the overall vision that you have for your life that y'all are just not here? We see each other and we talk every now and then, and that's it. Truly take a deep dive into that. What does that look like? Okay. Then you go and say, well, what's amateur family? And what's pro family? What are the attributes that we have? Like, how are we doing this? You separate that out, and what are you going to focus on? And then securing that time. If it's about experiences, then what can you do to create those experiences? This is the statistically significant part. These are your p-value, the 5% of the data that you can control so that you can get the results that you desire, not by chance, that you're actually tracking. You know what? We're communicating better. Why are we communicating better? Because we set time in our calendar to have family time once a week, or I check in with each member of my family. I send them a voice note, a 2-minute voice note twice a week or something like that. Or as a family, we get together once a month and we're tracking what we do. And, we delegate, we rotate if it's a bigger family and things like that. We have to be intentional about the things that we do and then make time for that. Then when we make time for that, we go back and plug it into some kind of calendar, whether it's paper or digital. We cannot keep everything in our heads. We have to put it on a calendar. A lot of times, we look at these, high level people, and some of them will show you the calendar. A lot of us get overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, it's so much. But it really isn't. If you actually start tracking the time that you do things and don't just put it all in there. And then you'll see. I worked with a client and she used to tell me she didn't have time to start her other business. And she was a college professor. Now, I used to be a college professor, so I get the side eye her like, girl, we don't have this typical 9 to 5, 8 to 9, whatever the time is. Like there are pockets of time that you have. So once she had to be honest about her time and how she was spending her time. Now I showed her an example. I gave her a few things to choose from, and I said, do this for 2 weeks. Do not deviate it. And I got the idea from the full focus calendar. I think it was the smart week. I renamed it your brilliant week because I liked it. And then um or like your perfect week or something like that. And then I said, follow this as closely as possible just for 2 weeks. Now, it was challenging for her to do it, absolutely. And but what she realized is once she committed to it, even if things didn't work out, and then she was able to adjust, and then she was like, well, you know what, Dr. V, I didn't like it this way. I'm gonna try that way. And I said, great, that is where you personalize your productivity, but you have to try something first. And this was based on her vision, not just saying, oh, I just want more time, because a lot of people want more time and you don't even know what to do with your time. You say that you want freedom, but technically, especially if you live in the United States of America, you are free to do whatever you want to do. You have to, what's the word I want to say? Do I want to say quantify? Yeah, I think I want to say you have to quantify that time, and you can it can be qualitative too, but you have to describe and bring that down out of the sky. What does freedom mean to you? What does that look like? What does that actually mean? No, you don't want freedom. You don't want to just sit around and do nothing all day, because that's not what you were called to do. You were called to do something higher, but you use that and you stay abstract because you haven't given yourself time to set up your vision, and then you haven't made the decision from going from amateur to pro. Now, another thing that can get you caught up, like I talked about rituals, routines, it's like morning rituals. I'm not talking about the other kind of stuff, but routines and rituals, like where you wake up, you shut down, how you start your day. For some people, that work. For some of you, you might feel like that's overkill. Do what works. Uh-oh try something and see how it works for you before you start, bashing it or say it doesn't work. One thing to be careful on, you can follow people and they can track all of their habits and they could be doing great. And then you could be somebody that tracks your habits and you burn out. You have to know yourself. Do I think tracking is important? Yes, because when you progress monitor, that's what we use in the education world. When you progress monitor, you can start seeing the data and say, oh, I did better, I performed better when this happened, or I didn't get the result because this didn't happen, right? So then when you monitor that, then you know what to focus on and what to expect. And then when you get the outcome, it's not a fluke. You're like, oh, I know exactly what to do next time. A lot of people are tracking habits just for the sake of tracking habits. And if it's like you have this whole list of habit trackers and it goes to what? So that's another thing. This is why it's important to have that big vision in your mind. And then the next thing, like I said, you want to make sure that you connect the dots. Everything that you do, regardless of who planner that you follow, or morning routine, evening routine, afternoon routine you follow, if it's not filtered through your belief system, your values, or your big vision, it is not going to work. So in order to secure your time, you have to understand what's significant to you, and then you have to personalize your productivity. And then the main thing, and I'm looking at the ones like kind of the ones that I have like a PDF of, and certain things. A lot of what they have in common is having 3 to 6 priorities that they must accomplish every day. You have to have something outside of what you normally do, especially if you're building something on the side first. Oh my gosh, I'm about to call my grandmother back. uh when you have to build got thrown off, grandma's calling on the phone. You have to have something that you are building towards. If you're building towards something, this could be in your career, but we're talking about big vision. What are 3 to 6 things? Start off small. Start off with 3. I'm not even gonna tell you to do 1 because you can up level. You can do 3. What are 3 things that you must accomplish every single day based on, that's aligned to your big vision, but based on a goal that you have, and set the intention that you're going to do that. Who is the person that completes these tasks no matter what? So I'm going to end it right now because grandma's calling, so it must be something important. Let me know your thoughts down below. I am doing a workshop on September 10th. That's the first one. I'm doing a series of them. Learn more about that. Go to the information be down below. but I would say it's not a full on like webinar or coaching thing. This is geared towards you having your plan in place. And if you listen to my 3R virtual expo, listen to the experts, get some practical tips and nuggets. That information will be down below. The first one starts on September 10th, and I hope to see you on the other side by Instagram. Okay, I am not going to do my rant over here on YouTube because I have to call my grandmother back, but I will do a video and upload it later.